I mean, you're here. You're here for episode 37 of Fresh Floppies. It's a true story. Should they stay?
True story.
No one listening gets that reference.
I thought that as it was coming out of my mouth. It's like 30 years old. What's up to all our sidekicks and henchmen out there in the nation? You're listening to Fresh Floppies. We're here to talk about the freshest of floppies. Well, I guess they're not all the freshest, but we're going to rate them.
Hold on. I mean, it depends on how you're using fresh.
Yeah.
Are fresh as in they are brand new
Shit, you're right.
today.
Yeah, they're all fresh.
But are they fresh as in like really
Dope?
good, dope,
Yeah.
fresh? I feel stupid saying dope. I say it all the time.
I say dope.
Yeah, I say dope ironically, unironically.
There are a lot of things that I started saying ironically, and now I say them unironically, like bro.
No, like at work I say dope way too much. It's just like,
dope.
hey, is this copy edit pretty good? Dope. Let's go.
Oh, yeah, let's go. What's a floppy? It is an issue that comes out once a month, and it's sequential.
Sometimes bi-weekly.
Yeah.
It's a single.
We're not gonna buy. We're not into buy erasure here.
We're gonna we're actually gonna talk about the scheduling structure of comic books.
No, we're not. That's so boring.
Welcome to Numbers and Comics, episode 37. Spoiler-free reviews of single-issue comic books, one chapter in an ongoing story, soap opera, if you will. And we want to incite you to read these books, so that's why we're doing this.
We're going to start off with Fall of the House of X, #1 by Duggan and Wernick. Let's see.
Wait, before we talk about this book.
Okay.
So this is the end of the Krakoan Age.
Yes. The beginning of the end of the Krakoan.
The beginning of the end of the Krakoan Age, which started with House of X, Powers of 10.
Yes.
That was 2 miniseries, both written by Jonathan Hickman, art by R.B. Silva and Pepe Larraz, 6 issues each, and they came out weekly. One issue of House of X, the next issue of Powers of 10, House of X, Powers of 10. Like it was a 12-week, no, this is not going to be it, but this is a 12-week event that set up this new status quo.
Yes.
And the books were related, but also not at all. Like the one book was just status quo, House of X. Powers of 10 was 10-year, 100-year, 1,000-year increments of where the mutants are.
Yeah.
So that is my context for reading Fall of the House of X, because there is a sister series that starts next week called Rise of the Powers of 10. So Fall of the House of X, Rise of the Powers of 10. This one is written by Jerry Duggan with art by Lucas Wernick.
Yep.
Who... Jerry Duggan is the current writer of X-Men proper and was Marauders. And Lucas Wernick was the artist on Immortal X-Men. Next week, Rise of the Powers of 10 is written by Kieran Gillen, who is the current writer of, well, I mean, I guess it just ended, of Immortal X-Men.
Yeah.
I don't know who's the artist, but Lucas Wernick was his artist on Immortal X-Men.
So they're swapping.
So I have no idea why they're swapping or what they're swapping. Either way. But that's my context. Like, okay, so I'm expecting 2 miniseries that are separate but kind of related.
Yeah.
And these are coming out 2 a month. So Fall is today, Rise is next week, and then February is issue 2 of each.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
And I think it's going to run all the way up to relaunch. So this is the beginning. Yeah, this is the beginning of the end. It was a long way of me saying I'm not what I expected is not exactly what I got based off of the information that I had before. How much have you been reading just Krakoan era?
So you and I had dipped in with the Hellfire Gala months ago, and we were both like, holy cats, what the? It's
pretty fun, right?
And so I read a couple of issues after that, and then because of life, I just fell off. So I haven't read an issue for weeks.
What do you remember what series you were reading, or were you just reading it all?
I think I tried a couple of them, and then I got distracted.
Fair enough.
So I am not up to date with most of this. Do we? We're not going to spoil anything in here, except for we know that apparently Cyclops has been captured by Orcus, and he's been taken to Paris.
Yeah,
to
that was in
face judgment.
That was in the first couple of issues of. It was actually in Hellfire Gala. Hellfire, like he was at the treehouse in New York.
Yeah.
When all that shit went down, and then he got captured, busted up, his eyes shown shut, and he's been a political prisoner this whole time.
That's right. I remember
Yeah.
that.
So now he's on trial in Paris, in France. And we start this issue media res with members of the X-Men that are still on Earth, in the middle of a plan to break Cyclops out of prison.
Yeah.
But things go as planned, and it ends.
Happily ever after.
How do you feel about the Screwball special?
Oh, that was cute. Them trying to figure out a new name for it.
What did you think of this issue altogether?
It was fine.
Yeah.
This did not grab me as much as the Hellfire Gala did. Like the Hellfire Gala, I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. And this one was just fine. I wasn't particularly engaged with it. I think it was okay. I wasn't stoked on it.
It struck me as, so it was, this, to me, this is something that Duggan does. I'm not going to say it's a problem Duggan has. It's just something that I've noticed in how I enjoy his writing or not. He is a very decompressed storyteller.
Yeah.
So one single issue does, like, even though tons of stuff happens, it doesn't feel like there's any
Feels
meat
like
on
table setting.
It doesn't feel like there's any meat on the bone.
Even though we've been table setting for a while now.
For a couple years now.
Yeah.
And it's not a bad, it's not a bore. It just never feels whole.
Yeah.
I found I prefer reading his stuff in trade.
I see. Okay.
So like the first 2 trades of his X-Men, I tried them in issues here and there, but I just couldn't hold on and I got a little bored. In trade, they read like water. Very fun. So I'm not advocating for, do how I do, but I think I prefer Jerry Duggan's writing in trade.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
personally.
valid. Yeah.
Just like how I kind of prefer Bendis in trade. Like they have a very decompressed way of like tons and tons of table setting, and then in the last possible second, a shit ton of plot happens and a shit ton of stuff happens, but it just doesn't feel weighted, or it doesn't feel balanced for me. But there's a shit ton of cool in here. Like,
yeah, there's interesting stuff. There's a certain thing that happens. They've got their team set up to do their particular thing that they're about to go do, and someone just pieces out without telling anyone.
I think that has to do with Rise of the Powers of 10.
Okay. It just
especially
seems
that
weird.
character who was introduced in Powers of 10.
Yeah.
I think that is the scene you're referring to is the only scene in the entire book that feels out of place. I think it's set up for the other book.
Gotcha. All right. So this is fresh enough. It's fine. I know because I do enjoy the X-Men and I kind of know what's going on. I wasn't lost. I was just kind of like, all right.
If you're steeped in it, I think this is probably required reading as an entry point.
No.
One, I don't know who's crazy enough other than us to like, let's start at the end.
Yeah.
But also too, I have a feeling I'm gonna be, the whole reason why I went through the whole like explanation of what my expectations were in regards to House of X and Powers of 10 and how those related versus how these are gonna relate. I don't think these are going to be very different series.
Yeah.
I think they're just
Probably
going
one
to be back and forth.
I kinda,
like two storylines that parallel each other as opposed to 2 separate miniseries that you don't know are related until the end.
I wish that they would I wish they had bookended it thematically the way that Hickman started it with just do the last 12 issues. This is the end of it.
Even they did this the Lives and Deaths of Wolverine.
Yeah.
That was another like 5 issues of one miniseries, 5 issues of another. It was like the deaths of, the lives of. Even though they were both the same writer and they were different miniseries. One was Wolverine traveling into past versions of his body to stop Omega Red from time sliding, a completely different like thing. And the other one was a techno-organic Wolverine chasing down Moira. Yeah. They were totally separate, and at the very end, they kind of came together. So at least that kept a paradigm of like this bi-weekly thing. Yeah. This feels like it's just going to be a 10-issue miniseries with 2 different titles.
Yeah, because after this is Rise of the Powers of 10, Wolverine 41, Invincible Iron Man, X-Men 30, Cable number 1, Resurrection of Magneto number 1, X-Force number 48. That's all of January's books.
It's endemic of the issues I probably have with X-Men right now. The fact that there's so many threads, I get lost and tangled, right? Yep. Like I just...
that's for the problem. That's amazing. For me, the problem for this whole Hickman era is Miniseries. What miniseries does it? What miniseries is this? Does this follow this other miniseries? Oh, this miniseries. Oh, that doesn't follow this miniseries. It's infuriating.
I used to tell people, and I still hold this, for that first 25 issues.
Yeah.
All you needed to read, and I'm doing this with air quotes, all you needed, necessary to read in order to understand what's happening in Krakoa is anything that's got Hickman's name on it.
Yeah.
Everything else, varying degrees of awesome, but almost all of it was side stories in this setup that they created. So,
and
like,
then he left.
You could literally read all of Marauders without having touched the X-Men books. You could literally read all of X-Men without touching anything in Hellions. Even though they were all like great books on their own, none of it was required reading for understanding what's going on.
Yeah.
And I think some people just kind of got into it a little too hard and like thinking that everything was necessary.
And then they got overwhelmed.
And I'm out. One last point. I know we're talking way too much about this one fucking book. Everyone's talking now about it's the end of the Krakoan age, and we both love collected editions and omnibuses and all this stuff.
Yeah.
How would this get all collected?
Dude, I've been thinking about that for the longest time. I have no idea. Like, as a storyline that people can go back and visit, no idea. No idea how people would do that other than like 10 omnibuses.
The quickest way for me to not purchase any of this is for them to be anthology omnibuses of 8 or 10 different series, all in
You're talking
release
about
order.
The trade paperbacks they had done, the collections?
What's this? There was like a couple. Reign of X.
Yeah.
Oh, Dawn of X, Reign of X, Trials of X.
Etc.
Each era had like 17 trades.
Yeah.
And that worked for maybe 2 months.
Yep.
Because it was like 12 issues kind of all setting up the whatever. But then you had random series that were not good, that had nothing to do with anything, all interrupting the momentum of the ones you want to read.
Yep.
So if they collected all that in omnibuses, that is the fastest way for me to never give a shit.
Yeah.
I want all of Duggan's X-Men.
Yeah.
I want all of
Marauders.
Well, I have it. But yes, I want all of Marauders in hardcovers. I want all of Immortal X-Men from Kieran Gillen. I want these alone, not I have to finish Immortal X-Men in between 400 pages of something else.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that being the best. Only completionists who, despite themselves, hate an experience. I don't get it.
I don't know how I would sell it. Like, once this is all over, if someone wants to read it, I have no idea. Other than their starting point, and then the Hickman X-Men, no idea.
Mm-hmm.
They would have to have some sort of numbering system or something to help us out.
Anyway, sorry, that was overly long, but there's a lot to talk about with the X-Men.
That's true. I was actually more excited than that. I was excited for Pine and Merrimac, *1 from Boom Studios by Kyle Starks and Fran Galan. This is issue #1 of a miniseries. So one of my favorite horror series.
It's definitely horror, yeah.
Of last year was I Hate This Place, or if you buy the alternate issues, Fuck This Place. And it's by Kyle Starks. I also was a member of his, we were both members of his sticker club. Delightful fella. I like his humor a lot. And this is a detective story.
Yeah, it's a detective agency of a married couple detective agency. She is a former homicide detective with, some horribleness in her past, and he is a former boxer.
Yeah, MMA.
Who just starts to work for her.
Yeah. They fell in love, and he left to go help her start this in a small town. And Pine and Merrimac are not their names.
No,
they are
the Kents.
They're the Kents, but Pine and Merrimac is the cross section streets that their office is located on.
Pine and Merrimac Detective Agency.
If you guys ever move your office, you're gonna have to change your name. Never mind.
Well, they can keep it. The name stays the same.
What did you think of this?
So I'm a big fan of Kyle Starks, and I, especially with something like I Hate This Place, I really, really am enjoying him play in other genres, because for a good 5 years, you only saw his name on comedy, on funny books, literally. Like he was writing Rick and Morty forever.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
That tracks.
But I was very excited to kind of read this, because I know that he he's a very charming individual, and I know he writes charming characters.
Yeah.
So I was excited. I have no idea who this artist was, but now I'm a fan. I love this kind of angular but soft painterly style. It's got a Matteo Scalera feel to it that I really, really enjoy. I like this a lot. I was reading this and I immediately felt like I would watch this television show for 5 or 6 seasons.
Oh, for sure.
It is very much in this first issue they're setting up one case, and I mean they give you backstory in almost a rush montage first sequence. So obviously I think it's going to relate to her childhood in some way, but yeah, I would absolutely experience this story because I think it's incredibly charming. I think the characters are really charming. I think it's
Alias meets Reacher.
A little bit.
Jessica Jones meets Reacher.
He is very much a Reacher character. Like the Mr. Kent, her husband, is very much a giant force of nature person, and she wields him around.
Yeah.
And he is more than happy to do it for her. And she is very much a kind of. She's no bullshit, but she's not harsh.
She's pleasant.
There's a couple of weaknesses in the dialogue, the storytelling, a little bit of the tone, but everyone's so charming. I kind of just wash over it. Yeah.
This was my favorite book of the week that I read so far. I enjoyed this a lot. I do like the art, the Matteo Scalero of it
so
all.
good.
Agreed. With his own sort of vibe going on, and I always like the scene where you find out how observant a character is.
Yeah.
Because this guy comes in, he's like, I want you to catch my wife cheating on me. And she's like, we're not going to do that. You're the asshole. And here's all the reasons I know that you're the one cheating. And she just like points out the things that are on his person. So I always like those sorts of scenes.
Oh, and then like immediately followed by somebody throwing actual shit on their door or on their window because they had a case against them. Like I like the 9 to 5 nature of how they're telling this story, which is really fun. Because I think a lesser or a different story would just focus on the mystery and be a little bit grim about it. Yeah. This is a serious story but it features people that have more than one emotion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they express more than one emotion.
For sure.
So like this isn't a comedy book, but there's really funny parts in it. Mm-hmm. And I like that.
And also the downfall of being a private detective in a very small town.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like someone who walks past your building every day is going to throw literal shit at your window because you fucked her. Yeah. No, well, not fucked her, but caught her.
I think this is just a 5-issue miniseries. I love it. It feels
delightful.
Like old episodes of. Let me think of a reference for people that are under 45. Castle.
I was thinking, Castle.
Because I wanted to say like. What was the one with Maverick, Rockford Files, and Columbo.
Oh my god!
I'm so old.
So and in the back here, there's a note from Kyle Starks, the writer.
Oh yeah.
Who's like, one of the most beautiful, marvelous things in the world is a happy couple. I don't believe there's anything more life-affirming than to see two people who are so wonderfully and seamlessly interwoven with each other. It's like joy poetry. It's hypnotic. Pop culture has chosen to rarely highlight this magnificent sight. In sitcom, the couples is always antagonistic or cruel. Rom-coms are always about the precursors to the long-term relationship. Dramas don't work unless there's drama, obviously. So you do feel that these two people actually are like happily married and enjoy each other's company, which is nice.
So I didn't read that, but that makes me immediately think of when Bendis took over Superman. Mm-hmm. One of his like things in interviews was, I want to show just how good of a marriage Clark and Lois have. Yeah. So good, in fact, that she's off writing a book and he gives her space. They are so strong that distance doesn't matter.
Yeah,
like,
I like that too.
I like seeing couples work, and I think it's sometimes drama is awesome, but sometimes it also is kind of cheap to just constantly put people in precarious situations relationship wise.
And also with ongoings, I get frustrated with the will they won't they silliness of it.
I like I understand when I read comic books. Let's talk about Spider-Man. When I read comic books, I know that there's no real ending because these people can't walk off into the sunset. It's a perpetual second act. It has to keep going. But I do think sometimes that they react too fast. Like MJ and Felicia, give me 2 years of it. Mm-hmm. Like, I know it won't last forever. I know that's just not a one true love. I get it. Sit with it for a little bit.
Peter and Felicia?
Sorry, Peter and Felicia. No, MJ and Felicia.
Yeah, I was like, hold on. Wait a minute. What am I missing?
Let's go with that.
Yeah. What's going on with MJ and Felicia?
I mean, she's bi.
Yeah.
No, I want them to... I would love for them to have a little bit more conviction in relationships and setups. But also, I know that they cannot have finality, so I don't care. Like, when somebody breaks up, it's like, I get it. That's fine.
Yeah.
I was enjoying this dynamic, though. Let's not be afraid of it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway.
That was Fresh AF.
Yeah, Fresh
really
as fuck. I liked it a lot.
Vengeance of the Moon Knight, #1 from Marvel Comics by Jed MacKay and Alessandro Cappuccio. I haven't read Moon Knight in forever. The Warren, was it Warren? Not the Warren Ellis one. The one where he was in the hospital. They got a lot of
Lemire.
the TV show. Lemire's is the only full run of Moon Knight that I've ever read. I've never been a big Moon Knight guy. And I know that Jed MacKay has been writing this.
Moonhead?
I'm not a Moonhead. No. I'm not a Moonie.
Not a Moonie? Not a Moon Knighter?
Jed MacKay's been writing them for a little bit. I don't care. The first thing I noticed about this was, okay, so Jed MacKay was writing Doctor Strange, and then he killed Doctor Strange, and then wrote a mini-series about the people who have to deal with Doctor Strange being gone, and then this is that again.
Go on. Go on, King.
So I wasn't... I don't really care about any of these characters. I don't know any of these characters. I wasn't particularly interested in the art style. This was barely fresh for me.
I think this was fresh. I've read... there's a couple things I have to talk about. I read the first arc of this book, and I read issue 25.
Where he dies?
No.
Oh.
Issue 30 is where he dies.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
And then this is the immediate follow-up. It is a renumbering, but it is a different Mark Spector, if it's even Mark Spector. In the course of that series, they did set up the Midnight Mission, which was basically just protecting people at night, no matter what they are, as long as they're innocent. So, like, vampires, monsters, goblins, doesn't matter. It's the Midnight Mission.
Oh, I did like that about this book.
Yeah.
I like that it is very supernatural.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So, set up, I knew. It wasn't bad. Very good. In regards to his Doctor Strange, he started killing with the death of Doctor Strange.
Oh, yeah.
By the way.
Oh, my bad.
It wasn't
Sorry.
a setup and then I killed him.
Sorry.
It was the first issue of Doctor Strange he ever wrote in the miniseries Death of Doctor Strange, which is great. So I just had to clear that up.
Having loved that, was this great?
This was if I was on board this whole series, I would think this is probably the coolest goddamn thing, because I haven't read 60% of this series. It's just pretty cool.
Okay.
Because I really like Moon Knight. I've read a lot more Moon Knight than you.
He's not my guy.
I love the malleability of Moon Knight. You can have him be a foil, a villain, or an altruistic hero all in the same breath. Yeah. So the way that he's been doing this series, it's been a little bit more supernatural. It's been a little bit more chaotic good, because Mark / Jake / Steven sometimes do things that are really fucked up, or they do it in the name of, the right, net positive, the good, which is fun to read, because I have a little bit more fun reading something like Moon Knight versus something like Punisher, even though they are both anti-heroes. The Punisher is very much a blunt instrument. Moon Knight is a little bit more of a multi-tool, and
He is.
there's pathos.
That's true.
Like, Frank Castle is just a force of nature pushing through and then, banging down the door. Moon Knight,
But you never quite know what you're getting with Moon Knight.
No.
You've got options.
There's diplomacy, there's pathos, there's multiple different versions of the character. And what Jed MacKay has done in this series, and I'm excited to revisit it because I've only read chunks of it. I'm hoping they do like a 2-volume omnibus or something with the first series, and then whatever. Is he gave him a cast.
Yeah.
All of these characters that you're meeting here, and I will say this #1, this is accessible. I think it is accessible. Like they do a quick introduction of everybody. All you need to know is that these people were working with Moon Knight. He's not there anymore, and they're just trying to keep his office open, the Midnight Mission open. So, and they give you quick introductions of everybody.
Yeah.
So I do think that this is accessible. If you want to jump on and see how it is, that's fine. But all of these characters that are in here have been built up and have been kind of part of his team. Like, I'm spoiling myself because in the first arc, this Hunter's Moon character is a foil. He's a bad guy. And now he's kind of a part of this team because they're both priests of Khonshu.
Did not know that.
So, like, I think there's some fun character building stuff in here. And being now a bigger fan of Jed McKay, I have a little bit more patience for, I don't know everything yet. So I'm cool. I'm good with it.
It really is funny, isn't it? How you experience with a certain creative will give them more leeway.
Absolutely.
Of like, oh, I know how they work. This is set up.
100%.
This is fine.
Yeah,
It's
even
just like finding a song by a band and being like, oh, now I get it.
I will give you a little bit, like, if it's a band I've never heard before, you've got about 30 seconds to hook me.
Yeah.
If it's a band I've grown to love, you got like 2 songs into an album to hook me.
Yeah.
Like, you give them a little bit more leeway because you're familiar with their aesthetic. You like how they cook. It's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
for sure.
so yeah, I think this is a solid first issue. I think it's fresh. If I was on board this whole series, I think it'd probably be fresh as fuck. The art, it's not my favorite, but it reminds me of like a Simone DeMeo kind of thing where that was on Power Rangers and some Radiant stuff for a while. There's a muddy anime style to it.
Yeah. Yes.
It doesn't look bad. It's not my favorite. Like, there's no storytelling issues with it.
Right. It's
like,
fine.
There's no, like, I don't know what's happening. The panel breakdown is crap. Like, it's not like that. It's just a very specific aesthetic that is not my jam.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not poorly done. Like, we sometimes will read big 2 books and it's like, what happened in this scene? Because it's just mud.
I feel like this style, I don't know where else I've been seeing it, but I feel like I've been seeing this sort of style elsewhere in the Marvel universe, but I can't place it right now. But yeah, I mean, it's fine. For me, it was barely fresh. I don't know if I care about this at all.
Yeah, Moon Knight.
Although the very last page, I was like, oh, I wonder what that's going on. I wonder what that is.
Oh, I will talk about a book that I read that you didn't read because I took your only copy. Kneel Before Zod. Oh, sorry. Dawn of DC. It doesn't say that. Kneel Before Zod, written by the very, I don't know, legendary? Is it legendary? He's been around for many years.
Who is it?
Joe Casey?
Oh, nah, he's not legendary.
Storied?
Storied, yes.
Storied Joe Casey.
Yes.
And with art by Dan McDade, who... are you familiar with Dan McDade?
Yeah, he did one of the...
Yep. The TKO books.
Yeah, which I liked.
And he did the first chunk of Firefly, the Unification War.
Oh, that's right.
That's all him.
Yeah.
It's a mildly loose style of art, but it's not messy, which I really like. This book, I don't remember when Zod got a planet. I think it happened during Bendis's run, or slightly after. Or
I
maybe
thought it was a
War,
Philip Kennedy Johnson
World
thing. I thought it was I don't know.
So it's the United Planets was a Bendis thing.
Yeah.
And then somewhere between then and now, Zod is New Kandor. Like, he has a planet, and he's setting it up to revive the inhabitants of the shrunken city of Kandor, blah, blah, blah. So it's basically like Superman giving him slack, a leash. Like, hey, you think I'm going to give you goodwill to actually support our people like you keep saying you want to, right? So this series is set up with him, Ursa, and his son. Ursa's pregnant with another son.
Oh.
Kind of setting up the planet, setting up New Kandor in order to, bring the Kandorians out. And then during the course of the book, you realize the contentious relationship he has with his preteen son, teenage son. I don't know how old he's supposed to be, 12, 13, whatever. What he's actually building, if at all it is peace or not. Like, he's a warlord. He's meant for war. And then they get kind of attacked at the end by some alien race that I'm not even familiar with. But it sets up a little bit of political intrigue with the United Planets obviously not trusting Zod and being very uneasy about this kind of like thing that Superman gave him, because Superman is to a fault
He's
a little
nice
forgiving.
Yeah.
Not even forgiving, just you tried killing me 100 times.
Here's a
But
plan.
this time
Yeah.
I'm gonna believe you.
I'm going to try and kick that football
Yeah,
again, Lucy.
exactly. It's a solid read. I didn't care,
Okay.
but it's really strong. Like I can recognize that it's very well done. It's very strong. I like the art. The dynamics between the characters is very well plotted and very well put together. I still don't care about these characters as my primaries, you know? Like, as the ones taking me through the story, I couldn't really grab onto anything other than the fact that, like, recognizing, like, this is well done. This is all well done.
I do think of all the villain characters, this is the first time we have one that I think actually works with trying to give them some pathos and a story of their own. It's not like every time we take a villain and make him a good guy or something, it gets a little frustrating. This guy kind of makes sense because he did have a very specific thing that he wanted to do. He wanted to, save Krypton?
Man, I don't know. What Zod is this?
Right, that's a good point.
What Zod is this?
But I think this character is right for mining. Like, you could take him and his family and tell an interesting story and still have him be a complete piece of shit.
Yeah, which this is doing.
Yeah.
Like, and a lot of times you do that, at least narratively, you could do that by just keeping them a piece of shit, but putting them against something that is worse than a piece of shit.
Yeah.
At the end of this issue, they're like New Kandor is. I was going to say New Krypton. New Kandor is attacked by alien race I've never heard of.
Yeah.
But he obviously thwarts it. But then, you know, you've got the United Planets being a little like, we're watching you, bitch. Mm-hmm. And him being shifty. So, like, it's interesting. I just don't know how much I care about Zod. Sure. Now, if 3 or 4 issues from now I hear that, like, holy shit, this is the best thing that they're doing, and oh my God, I'll jump back in for sure.
Yeah. I want to check this out because I am interested in Zod. I've always liked him. He's sort of an interesting character. I know him from the 1978, or Superman 2, not 78, but Superman 2. And I'll check this out. I think it looks fun.
Word, is there anything else that you've been reading?
I did read, I tried it out. I'm not a big Spider-Man 2099 guy, but Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099, came out this week, and it is by Steve Orlando.
Oh.
Yeah. Steve Orlando is not a writer that I genuinely enjoy as much as others, and it's the artist is Devmalia Pramanik, Pramanik, another guy who looks a little bit like the Moon Knight Cappuccio that we saw earlier, but mixed with, and I like this, Rick Leonardi, who is the original artist on the Peter David series. That's 2099, cool. Spider-Man 2099.
That's cool.
Yeah. So remember earlier I was saying, hey, you know what I like about this Moon Knight is that they're dealing with supernatural characters. Mm-hmm. That's what Spider-Man 2099 is also doing. So this is called Beware the Zombie of 2099. And then the next one will be vampires, and then werewolves, and then it looks like a Frankenstein, and then maybe Man-Thing 2099.
Are these all one-shots?
No, it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Let me see that.
Thank God. five years ago, that would have been 5 different one-shots.
Yeah.
And it would have driven me crazy. But this looks like it's an actual 5-issue miniseries, and it's just a zombie outbreak in the year 2099 in the barrio. So we have designs now for Moon Knight 2099, Werewolf by Night 2099, Frankenstein maybe, or no, that's Hyde 2099. Thank you.
And Man-Thing 2099. I am a sucker for like these designs.
Yeah. It's not bad.
I've personally not enjoyed Steve Orlando.
Me neither.
As a writer.
I have tried so many times.
I've tried a lot. And it's not even like I hate Steve Orlando. It's more like it's not really for me because I haven't enjoyed any of the stuff I've read. Now I heard that Scarlet Witch is really great.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, I'll read it eventually.
Scarlet Witch isn't one of my characters that I tend towards.
Yeah,
and
like
then Steve Orlando. I won't say actively keeps me away from a book, but I don't get excited when I see his name. It's more of like, we'll see how this goes. You know what I mean?
Who else is like that for you? On art, like
was Joshua Williamson.
Oh yeah.
But then that's why I never
give up.
I never give up, never surrender. It's always someone's a good time to check out someone's writing. If they're writing a new series, I'll try it out. Mm-hmm. This might be the one. Right? It'll be the song that you hear that makes you go, oh, now I get that band.
What about artists? I think I know a couple of artists that you're like, ugh, okay.
Greg Land, Rob Liefeld.
No, not even bad. Not, like, I mean, like ones that are just like, I'm reading this book, so I'll keep reading it, but this artist doesn't keep me there.
Oh yeah, all of those names. What's his name? Straczynski.
Oh, Zadransky.
Zadransky. I don't like.
Simon
Yeah,
Zadransky.
I will try it out, but it's a struggle for me.
I keep thinking Will Sliney.
Will Sliney, absolutely.
I mean,
he was doing 2099 stuff for a while.
I can't even see in my head his style because it's just so. Because he was doing some Star Wars stuff.
Star Wars, yes.
And it's like it's just all looks like Star Wars. There was no like change, so I'm like, oh, okay, Will Sliney.
Yeah. Who's the other guy? Greg Land. I said that. Greg Horn.
Greg Land, Horn, the Swipers.
Yeah.
I'm not a giant. Like it's functional, but it's not dynamic. It's not enjoyable.
Yeah. I actively have to struggle through it. But yeah, this was actually, if you like 2099, this ain't bad. This ain't bad.
So it's fresh enough?
It's fresh enough.
All right.
For sure. All right. We'll talk to you tonight because we're going to be doing the live stream. Just me and Noel. Poor Brian has been exposed to COVID, so he's trying to keep his ass home, even though he's feeling
Doesn't
fine.
matter.
But he is going to quarantine, so he won't be with us tonight. But tonight we will be discussing Aquaman, the film Aquaman 2, The Lost Kingdom.
Oh, that too.
And some What If.
Some What If. What we've been up to, and Aquaman 2. We have a lot of things to say about Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom.
Yeah.
Some of them might be surprising. Some of them might be obvious.
Yeah. All right. We'll talk at you later.
Thank you for listening to the CultPop Network, home to podcasts, live shows, and a whole lot of fun stuff for every flavor of fan. Follow us wherever you find your favorite podcasts, and be sure to join us live every Wednesday night at youtube.com/CultPopGo at 8 p.m. Eastern. While you're there, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you'll know when we drop new Thunder Rounds and episodes of Fresh Floppies, a spoiler-free show about single-issue comics released each week. Until then, we'll talk at you later.